Hi everyone, how you all doing today? I hope you're all doing great. If you're new here, I'm Latifa and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be learning how I make the upper part of this dress. I actually make this dress for some bridesmaids and I posted it on Facebook and I got a lot of messages from my fellow designers out there asking for the pattern of the upper part of this dress. So I decided to make this video. So if you ask me for how I made the upper part of this dress, this video is for you. But before we get started, why haven't you subscribed to this channel? Kindly support and motivate me by subscribing to this channel. Like, share, and leave me a comment in the comment section. So without wasting much of our time, let's get started. So guys, to get started, we need our body measurement. I have a video on how to take accurate full body measurement. So after taking your measurement, then you use that measurement to draft your basic bodice pattern. So this is my basic bodice pattern. I also have a video on how to draft a fitted bodice pattern. So this is the front and this is the back. Now what we want to do now is to adjust this pattern for the style we are trying to make. So for that style, I have a tube underneath that wrap going around the arm. So the first thing is we want to draft that tube that will be under the wrap. So what I'll do is from this point at the shoulder right here, I'll come down by 8.5 inches. So do the same thing right here. Then create a straight line. So whatever you do for the front, you also do that for the back too. So come down by 8.5. So make sure you don't go lower than 8.5 or 8 inches. You can still do 8 inches. But if you make it like 7 or 6 inches, this tube will be showing at the upper part of your wrap, and that will not make it look good. The next thing you want to do now is from this point, mark your nipple to nipple distance or your apex distance. This is 3.5. Then at this point right here, I'll come down by 1/2 inch. So this is the bust point. So right here, I'll come down by 1/2 inch. Then just slant it a little bit like this. You see what I did there? So we'll be cutting like this. So do the same thing for the armhole part of the back. From here, come down by 1/2 inch right here. So this is your armhole. This is your bust point. So mark 3.5 inward from here. So this is my zipper allowance. So from here, I'll mark the 3.5. Then do the same thing. Then after doing that, the next thing is to cut out our pattern. So this is the front pattern. Make sure you label it so that you don't forget front. Then let's cut the back pattern. Back. So after cutting out the pattern, the next thing we want to do is place our pattern on our fabric. So when you place your pattern on your fabric, make sure you add 1/2 inch at the upper part and at the down part so that you'll be turning that part out with your lining. So this is my back pattern. Then I'll do the same thing for the front pattern. And this is what my front pattern looks like after cutting. 1/2 inch at the bottom, 1/2 inch at the top. And also make sure you notch the dart area like this. And this will also help you know which part is the down part. So after cutting out our pattern, this is what we have. So this is the front and this will be the back. So the back will be going this way. Make sure you notch as much as possible to help you know which side will be the side, the center back, so that you don't mix it up, because this pattern can actually look the same. So as you can see, that's why I notched this one. So I'll have this one like this and I'll have this one like this. So if you want to add lining to your pattern, then you cut your lining the same way you cut your pattern. But for me, I'm just going to be cutting a little bit of like a straight fabric just to turn this part. So guys, this is what I'm talking about. You can cut a full lining to turn the rough edges inward. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to cut this little bit of fabric, and I'll use that to just turn the upper part like this and like this inward. So I'll be sewing with 1/2 inch straight like this, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch, then we'll turn it inward. So after doing that, the next thing will be to sew my dart. So I'll fold this like this and sew my dart. I'll measure my dart intake, so 6 inches, then 1/2 inch here, then you sew it to that 6 inches. I'll make another video on how to sew your dart. So now the next thing is to take this to the sewing machine and sew 1/2 inch, then sew my dart. So guys, after sewing 1/2 inch and turning it backward, this is what you will have. So I already ironed it, and as you can see, this is looking neat at the upper part right here. And also I already fixed my dart right here, so I did the same thing for the back and the front. So after doing that, the next thing is to place the back to the front. So this is the front like this, then this is the back. So I'll make sure right side is facing right side, so right side facing each other, same thing, right side facing each other. After doing this, the next thing that I'll do is sew my sewing allowance. So I had 1 inch sewing allowance for the side, so I'll sew 1 inch here, 1 inch here. But note, for the style that we are making, measure 3 inches upward from this point. So from here like this, I'll measure 3 inches. So when you are sewing, stop at this 3 inches. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So measure 3 inches from the down part to this place. So sew your 1 inch sewing allowance and stop right here. Do the same thing for the other side. So after doing that, I'll take this to the machine and sew with 1 inch to this point. So guys, after sewing the side seam, so this is what we have, as you can see, and here we have the opening at the side, 3 inches. So we are done with this one. Then the next thing is to cut the wrap that is going from the side around the hem then to the back. So guys, for the wrap going across the hem for that style, the wrap is coming from the side seam like this, then going to the middle of the back. So there's 2 ways that you can achieve the measurement. You can either take the measurement from your side like this, then let it go over like this. Can you see what I'm doing? Then to the center back. So from the side all over to the center back. So you can use whatever measurement you have there. Or I have another way you can calculate this. So you can either take the measurement the way I just showed you, or use this method. I actually came up with this method and it works really well for me, and I've used this to make for different sizes. So what you will do is your bust measurement, then you subtract 6 inches from your bust measurement. So that will be, for this case, my bust is 32, then minus 6, and that will be 26. Now what you want to do is add your sewing allowance to it. And what I mean by your sewing allowance is we'll be attaching that wrap to the side of your fabric and to the end of your zipper allowance. You remember, this is the side we left 3 inches opening, and that's the reason why we left 3 inches, so that we can attach that wrap to the side here. Then you also attach the end of that wrap to your zipper allowance. So it will be like you are cutting a straight fabric. So one part will be attached to this place and the other part will be attached to the zipper allowance. So you need 1 inch to attach it to the zipper allowance and 1 inch to attach it to the side. So our sewing allowance will be 2 inches, 1 inch for the zipper allowance, 1 inch for the side. Then we'll add additional 1 inch. Now the additional 1 inch will be 1/2 inch for both sides, so that you'll be able to turn your fabric. I'll show you what I'm talking about when I'm cutting the strap. So plus additional 1 inch, and this will be 26 plus 2, that's 28, that's 29 inches. So the length of our wrap will be 29 inches. So guys, this is the wrap that will be going across the arm. What I did is I fold my fabric into two like this. I want the width of my wrap to be 6 inches. The one I made that is in this picture is 9 inches, but for this tutorial I'll use 6 inches. So 6 inches plus half inch to turn this part inward, so that's 6.5. Now the length will be the measurement that we did, the calculation we did earlier, 29 inches. So I would like to explain something here, and this is a little bit tricky. Now you have to make one end of this straight fabric longer by 1 inch, and what I mean by that is our calculation is 29 inches, and here I have 29 inches, as you can see. Now I have to make either here or here 1 inch longer, but since I already cut this part as 29 inches, this part has to be 30 inches. I'll make sure this part is 1 inch longer. So if you see now, here I have 30 inches. The reason why I'm adding 1 inch at one end of this side is because I realized that if I make the part equal, that I have 29 here and 29 inches here instead of 30 inches here, this part at the zipper allowance will be pulling. What I mean by that is this part at the zipper allowance will not balance very well. You'll feel like this part is tight, but if you make one part longer and you make sure that the part that is longer by 1 inch, make sure when you are sewing that part is placed here. So the shorter part will be placed at the top right here like this. So now what we want to do now is you cut two of these, because one side will be going to the right side, the other one will be going to the left. So cut out two of these, and you make sure that for the second part too, one side is 29, the other side is 30 inches. So after doing that, the next thing is to take it to your sewing machine and sew with half of an inch. So when you want to do this sewing, make sure you are sewing on the wrong side. So this is the wrong side. I will sew with half of an inch like this. Then stop somewhere around here, because you need space to bring out your fabric. So I'll take this to the sewing machine and do that. So guys, after sewing with half of an inch round like this, as you can see, I have an opening here. So I'll be pushing out my fabric through this opening. So after bringing out my fabric, so as you can see now we have the knit seam showing outside. So the next thing is to give it a good press. We do the same thing for the other one. You remember we have two of this, so you turn this also out and give it a good ironing. So guys, after giving it a good press, so the next thing now is to attach it to our tube bodies. Now to attach it to the tube, you want to make sure you get this right. If you remember earlier, one side is like 1 inch longer than the other side. So as you can see, this is the part because it's looking slant. Now this part is equal, which is the other end. So you see that part that is equal, what you want to do is you can either pleat it or gather it. So what I'll do now is I'll just gather this a little bit like this. So when you gather it, make sure the length is now 3 inches. You know it's 6 inches now. So when I gather it, I want it to be 3 inches. So you do the same thing for both sides. So this side are the straight side. So guys, so as you can see, I already gathered this part. So what I'll do now is to measure it and make sure it's 3 inches. So you can adjust it to 3 inches. This part that is gathered, I'll place it in between this open line like this. So this side seam that is open, so I'll just place this like this. Then sew it down. I hope you can see. So after placing it in between, then you sew it down. You take the second one. You remember we had two. So the gathered part for the second one, you place it in between the way we did that other one. You sew this like this. I hope you can see that. So I'll take this to the sewing machine and do that. So guys, after attaching the 2 wrap that will be going across the arm, so this is what the front would look like. So this is one and this is the second one. So, and if you look at the back, you can see we fix it in between the seam. So this is what you will have. And I also use my serger to neaten up the edges. Next thing to do now is to attach the end of each wrap to the zipper allowance. So for this wrap now, for this one, you'll be attaching the end to this part. And for this one, you'll be attaching the end to this zipper allowance. So you attach it like this. Can you see? Then you do the same thing for the other side. So I'll just pin it down. This is the other one. So it's already coming out. So place it at the beginning of your tube right here, like this. Then pin it down. So what I'll just do now is just to sew like this. Then after sewing, I'll do the same thing for the other side. Then I'll fix my zipper straight down with my 1-inch zipper allowance. So guys, this is what we have now, and as you can see, it's already looking nice, and I already fixed my zipper. So when you turn it inward, this is what you have, and this is the back. So I'm just gonna zip up my zipper. I have a tutorial on how to insert an invisible zipper. This is actually not an invisible zipper, but it's kind of like the same method. I'll leave the link down below. Guys, this is what the finished product look like. As you can see, this is beautiful. So the reason why I left this down part like this is to tell you that you can make this into a dress by adding like a skirt pattern to the down part, or you can also leave it as a top. Just make sure you make this part neat, and you can also make it into a peplum top. And that will be that for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If this video has been helpful, make sure you give me a thumbs up, like, share, and leave me a comment in the comment section. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.